Hi and welcome to another one of the Tech Geeks videos. In this video I'm going to be looking at some basic around the Ubiquiti Superlink and getting that working with what's just been released, which is the USL-Environmental, so the Ubiquiti Superlink Environmental. This detects humidity, temperature, water leakage and light, as well as if it's sitting in water. But this is more sort of like a rough and ready, some of the questions that we've got asked about it, and just be remembering this is being done in September 2025. These devices have been out for about 4 weeks, so they're still sort of developing and getting past some of the bugs. The couple of things to just talk about first is there are two models of the Superlink. They run in two different frequencies. So there's the European model and the US model. Your accessories like the environmental need to be of the same type. So quick way to identify them, just show you here on the back of the European one, you'll see we've got our CA stamp, and I think it's got a UK Canada on there as well. There isn't really much to define it on this, which is the actual environmental. Other than the box it comes in will either have US or EU somewhere on the box. So you do want to make sure that those match up. Otherwise you won't get them working. So let's get started and give you a little bit of guide of how this all fits together. So obviously in our basics we have our Superlink and then we have our range of environmental monitors that go with it, or there's going to be break glass options and sensors and other bits and pieces. So the Superlink gateway itself, the little box is needed to make this work. That will give you extended Bluetooth. So if you've already got some of the UP sensors, you'll notice these were originally brought out to work with some of the access points, but the new access points don't have Bluetooth beacons in them. So the Superlink has been brought out. So you're going to get extended Bluetooth, and then you're going to get what's called sub 1 gigahertz frequency. So in that 800 megahertz band, those signals travel a long distance, and theoretically, depending on where you position these, you might be able to get a distance up to a couple of kilometers in a perfect environment. We'll hopefully have some time to do a couple of tests where we stick these in a fridge and a metal box and see what type of coverage we get with those. But just do be aware, the whole setup is actually made to allow you to have multiple Superlinks. And that's probably a good indication of, you probably might have one inside and one outside, or one part of the way down near a shed or something like that. So just be aware of how this sort of infrastructure all fits together. So I'm not going to talk to you about actually adopting the Superlink. The Superlink is just adopted. This runs in Unifi Protect. This is a Unifi Protect product. So you're going to need to get your gateway in there. Not really a lot once you've hit it, and obviously you're going to hit adopt in your settings here, give it a name. And the LEDs, it's got an LED light, and obviously in some locations you might want to have that turned off. That's really all there is to the Superlink once that's put in, and we're going to test it, like I said, with this little environmental. If you've not seen these before, do look on our YouTube channel. We've got two little water sensors on the top here. We've got 4 at the back here for if it's sitting in standing water. We have got the option to add in a third-party sensor on here for water levels. We then have a temperature and humidity sensor here. We've got a light sensor on here as well, and then our 2 indicators for how this is working. It's got a lithium-ion battery in it, which they reckon is going to last for 4, 5, maybe 6 years, but it is replaceable, so easy to do. Magnetic back to it as well, so it can be easily clipped on. So what you need to do, obviously, open this up. Inside, you take out the cardboard and allow the battery terminals to make a connection, and you'll get a light indicator come on the front of the device, a tiny little white light when it's not paired up, and you'll see it appear here in Unifi Protect. So we're going to click to adopt, simple as that. So once we've adopted this in, our environmental will now start to configure. Eventually we'll go from our little white light that you can just see on there, I think, to blue to show that it's all paired up and up to date, which hopefully won't be very long. And there's not a lot in this. This is a sensor that comes back and gives you the data that you need. You're then going to use Alarm Manager to actually put some of those things into action for you. You can see probably just there, if I just push the light in the middle, you can just see, maybe it probably doesn't, but it's actually turned blue on here. So our device is probably almost finished being adopted. and we'll just let that run through. So really nice in the screen. First things we can see in here is our dB level. Obviously it'd be interesting to see at distance. This is a low frequency device, so it should travel through denser material a little bit better than normal Wi-Fi. But let's have a little look at some of the other features that you can see in here. So really this is our start. There's not really much in here, and we'll use our sensor manager in a few minutes. If you've not done anything before, you will find that the sensor manager appears now as an additional option on your left-hand menu. And then we've basically got this, we've got temperature will pick up in due course as it starts to go through, but we'll have a look at those settings as we walk through, and we can see some ongoing information that's collected here. Most of what we want to do is in here, in settings, I'm just going to put EU to remind myself on here. Now you can pair it with the camera. At the moment, really all this does is means that if there is an alarm and you go to the sensor to have a look, it's really quick and easy then to follow straight through to the camera. I'm not sure whether there's going to be extra features around what that could do. Maybe it could collect a screenshot or something like that for you at that moment in time. But pairing seems to be all that we can do with it at the moment, and it just seems to, let me just add this in here, I think it just seems to give us a picture from that camera at that point in time. Let me put this here. So it is currently in sleep mode. If you want to wake it up to get it more quickly, you're just going to push the button in the middle. That will just wake it up. But we'll have a look here with your updates just appearing here. So hopefully that's now paired with the camera. If I go back here, you can see it is paired with the camera. And obviously if I was to just go here, it's going to take me straight to that pool camera, which sort of does make it somewhat neater and easier if I've got some alerts that are coming directly from that. So let's have a look just like at some of the other options that we've got in here now. So we've tagged it. You can choose what you actually want. I'm going to turn off leak external. That's our external sensor. I don't want that. And obviously you can determine how often you want this to send back the information. Now this, if an alert happens, so for instance a leak, it will actually send the information straight away, irrespective of all of this. But obviously if you're collecting just temperature or humidity, you might not want that other than every 10 minutes or every half an hour. So you're going to save battery by telling it not to check in. You do have to remember, if you make updates on this, it won't be able to send those updates till the next time the device actually checks in. So probably 5 minutes is maybe a logical starting point, but you could push that out further if you want to. You can then create safe zones. So safe zones are, in this instance, for temperature where no alerting or anything else is going to happen. Again, with humidity and with light. So those are your safe zones, the zones of which you think it's going to operate in, and then it's going to alarm outside of that. That is really sort of what we want to do with this, because then we're going to use the alarm manager to actually create an action from it. So set this up where you're comfortable, or what you want to use it for. Maybe if you're putting this into a fridge area or something along those lines, or into an area where you're trying to make sure it doesn't go over 30 degrees, or then you want to obviously make sure your safe would be all the way up to 30 degrees, and beyond safe it would be at a point that it would actually start to alert. So you can set those zones up. I haven't got these done at the moment because I'm mainly going to concentrate on just showing you on what happens when water detection happens. It's one of the simplest ones to do, but at least you can see what is there. So let's just head over to the sensor monitor or sensor manager page over here. Let's leave without saving. And this is now going to show us data that's actually been collecting at this moment in time. And obviously we can scroll through those basic pieces of information. So the three sensors in here, obviously, that are active and sending you temperature, humidity, and light. So obviously, you know, if I was to cover over the light sensor on here, then it would obviously, in its next check back in 5 minutes, and I held my finger on here for 5 minutes, in the light here, it would actually have come back to pretty much 0, because it wouldn't be able to see any light happening through that sensor. So obviously this is what we use for our quick ways of actually seeing what is happening and what is going on. So what do we do with this, or what can we do with this? This is great for just this way of collecting information. We can look in our sensor settings, which is exactly what we did over on the other side. Again, looks like that you could have multiple of these environmentals. I've only got one set up, and you could probably push these same sensitivities across all of them. That is really what you get in the device itself. You can click across these links here to get real time of what's actually happening, or the last time it checked in. You can see it sees no water link, no motion, and we've not got tamper, because these ones are extra sensors that I don't think are quite in this one yet. So how do we work with this? We're going to work with this very simply, Alarm Manager. All right, so I've got a very simple alarm set here, which is that if there's a water leak on the water leak sensors, so we can have a look on here and actually edit the alarm and see what it's actually created. So on water leak, I want to, and I've been detecting it with this environmental, then I want to alert this user. And at the moment, I want to try it in a minute. I want to see what comes up with this under sink water leak is the content that I want to put on it. So I've identified where this environmental is, but obviously you could call this under the sink if that's where you're going to put this monitor, but you can have several messages that come up. So that's what we've done with our alarm for that. And that should now, if I was to put some water across the sensors on this, so the drip, these two on this side here, it will now start to put itself into alarm. So let me just drop some water across those two terminals there and see if I can complete that. Seem to have, there we go, a little bit more. All right, you can actually see I've got red lights happening. And in a moment on this page, this will see, as you see, it's updated itself to show that it had detected a water leak. This has actually sent a alert to my mobile phone. So you can probably see on the top of my phone there, I have got water leak detected under the sink. It says, so that's used that message that I put in when we configured it on this device, when we set the alarm manager up. So let's go to our alarm manager, and here's our water link settings. Sorry, this can carry on for notifying. Let me just edit this alarm, just show you where it is. You can see I changed this settings here, and that's what alert. You can see that this is still showing as this. If I clear over the sensors so that it's no longer got a water leak, and I can come back to our sensor monitor again if you want, and the water leak has cleared. And then obviously you could have created another alarm manager that would to tell you what you wanted it to do when that was cleared. You could also obviously do a number of other things with this. You could add another action on here, which was to do a siren, for instance. So if we did an action on here, and then we want to do a sound, I've got a UP siren here. There will be obviously the Superlink versions of these soon as well. I could highlight this, how long I want the siren to run for. And that would then obviously as a result set the siren off when that alert was heard. So obviously now as we see this with, if it was a temperature warning, or as we see other ones here for glass break or movement sensors and those type of things, we can tie it with some action. You know, maybe turn on some other features, move your camera around if you've got a PTZ camera. So really that sort of gives you an idea. There's not masses to this. And if I just take us back to our sensors, we can see the dB level of this. This is only about 10 meters away at the moment. So we will try and see, I'm going to go and put this in a fridge, see if we can get some sensing from that as well. But like I said, there's not a lot to this. It's very simple, very easy. You get all of this. It obviously works inside the mobile Unifi Protect app as well. The distance is going to vary on the materials and everything that you're going through, but you do get this sensor manager option over on this side, which gives you some of those features. And I think as this builds out, we're going to see a load more with it, but I hope you can see that this is really just giving you reporting. The moment that we do an action on it, like the water drip, we get an immediate alert from it, even if it's only sending back every 5 minutes. And then we can actually do something with that by using the alarm manager down here to actually create an action, to alert us, to email us, to record something from a camera, those type of things. So let's just go and pop this over into a fridge, and then we're going to see whether that works. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually put this sensor, it's about 10 meters away from the Superlink gateway, through 2 concrete walls and inside a fridge with double insulation inside it. It's a fairly big American sized fridge. What I've done is I've actually set it to 30-second updates. The reason I've done that is because obviously I want to show that it is actually in there, and the temperature's dropping off. So obviously I went into here and I changed this down to 30 seconds because I don't want to wait 5 minutes each time to be able to show you that there is something changing on it. It's only been in there a couple of minutes. So obviously it is slowly dropping its temperature. If you remember, it was at about 28 degrees when we started this, and it's slowly coming down. We should get another update in a moment when it's dropped a little bit more of a temperature, but obviously quite significant. Still at this distance, we were at minus 72, 69 to minus 72. You can see the temperature's now gone down again. So we're at minus 80 dB and it's still actually functioning inside the fridge, which I think is actually probably a pretty good way of doing things. I'm now going to move that to about 15 meters to, so it'll be through about 4 concrete walls and another little bar fridge that I've got, just so we can see that still has some connectivity. And then I'm just going to wander down the street and just leave it out somewhere down the bottom of the street, about probably 80, 100 meters away, and see whether we get any sense from that. Okay, so you'll see this one isn't doing quite so well. We're down at minus 96 dB. Like I said, this is through 1, 2, 3 and a bit concrete walls, and then inside a metal fridge, or a metal surrounded fridge, which is obviously still pretty good for what it should be doing. And you can still see its temperature is dropping, so it's getting cooler. So it's not ideal, the dB level that it's at, but it's still functioning. I'm just going to now take this out. I'm going to wander down the street, probably about 100 meters, leave this down the bottom of the street, and just see if it can actually find its way home at that distance. It'll give us an idea of what this can do. Like I said, this Ubiquiti Superlink, the Superlink that I've got at the moment is indoors. I've not mounted it outdoors, and we're just literally trying this out of the box without really any refinement or anything needed on it. Just want to see, you know, what we're actually achieving, because obviously you're going to have some of these things are going to be within a few hundred meters of you. Obviously, to be able to get a kilometer or something like that, this dB level is going to change quite significantly. And obviously, for people who don't know, the dB level, the closer that is to 0, the better quality signal you have. The larger this number in the negative, the worse signal you have. Now, obviously, at a kilometer or something like that, you know, or even a few hundred meters, you are going to have quite a high dB level there, or quite a low, depending on how you look at it. But obviously it's only sending very small amounts of data, so it's not like you're trying to stream a YouTube or anything like that. So as long as it can still send back the information, it doesn't really matter here of what dB level we've got. But let's go and try it down the street, and I'll come back in a moment. Okay, so this is about seeing the extremes. So I want to just see what this was like out of the box. So I walked to about 150 meters and put this up, and it actually lost signal. But let's put this in basis. That 150 meters is about 10 meters below the level of the Omni antenna. In fact, you can just see it's drifted offline again now. It's going through 1 concrete brick wall, 2 neighbours buildings that are both brick walls, and then down to the river level. So that's sitting at about 120 meters now, which just seems to again be just slightly outside of its range to maintain what it needs to. Like I said, if you put this on the outside or something like that, you'd probably get something that worked perfectly, and you might be able to get even further distance than I've managed to get to. So for me at the moment, this probably sits for in the environment where I've got, like I said, with this inside and concrete walls inside my house, I reckon I probably get about 100 meters outside, probably maybe 150 meters maybe 200 if I didn't have any other obstructions around this. Obviously, if I was mounting this outside, I would probably get a much better signal altogether. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what I've been able to achieve with this so far, and some basic settings that you can do to actually use this great little device. I think it's going to be interesting as we get all the other monitors come with this, how this little ecosystem is going to evolve. Probably eventually, you know, in how much more it integrates with Protect, and probably we'll see it with Access maybe somewhere along their line as well. But I think it's a great way for being able to monitor what's happening, but hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the distances I've got, the fact that you might need some multiple of these, or take some consideration of exactly how you're going to mount these. Like I said, this is just out of the box without me really doing anything clever or trying to optimize this. That 1 or 2 kilometer maximum distance I can't emulate here, but gives you an idea that probably in a perfect environment that type of thing is achievable. Hopefully this is useful. Head on over to our YouTube channel. I've got plenty more how-tos, rough and readies on many products, so why don't you head on over there, subscribe and stay up to date.